That is right. We are officially kicking off Reaper's Underground Holiday Blasphemy Month because we all know how I feel about Christmas, if you will. So, and we thought here at the Underground, the best way to kick this off is with awesome director James Dean. No, not Back from the Dead, because I've heard so many people say that shit. And I'm just like, no, this is someone else. He is with us today.
Hey, at least you've only heard that version of it. I've heard about 3 or 4 different versions of that James Dean. Jimmy Dean Sausage, James Dean, the porn actor. I mean, we can go on and on.
Oh, shit. Well, we will definitely get to that because I'm sure you got some doozies. But he's got a soon-to-be holiday cult classic out, almost, because it's not everywhere just yet, but coming very soon, Triple Xmas. Now, I like that name so much better, as I'm sure all of you do as well. But this is the time to share this out. Share it anywhere and everywhere. It is Sinful Sunday, and I know you sons of bitches are still up, so let all the demons know that we are live right now. Before we get into all this awesomeness, we're going to take a quick commercial break to our brothers over at Villain Arts Tattoos. Check it out if my computer is going to work. One more time, third time's charm. Check it out. That's right. Get yourself a quality professional tattoo anytime that Villain Arts Tattoo Convention's the largest in the country comes to your city, and check out all the awesome performers as well as all the great vendors there as well. All right. This is your time to ask questions. So throughout the broadcast, just drop it in the comments and we will get those questions answered. All right. So how's it going, brother?
Man, it's pretty good. It's feeling good. We just did our premiere yesterday. So coming off that, I feel really good, especially with the reactions that everyone had. But yeah, no, I'm good.
Nice. This is definitely the time of year that everybody kind of like digs into their trick bags of holiday horror films.
Sure.
And this one just really takes the cake as far as I'm concerned. Something new, something fresh, and definitely full of blasphemous awesomeness. And you got a hell of a cast. Myself and my wife are both indie actors, and you got Felissa Rose in there, Morgan Thompson, just quite a few, Jessa Flux as well.
Yeah.
Just a great cast. So why don't you kind of... Oh, go right ahead.
I was going to say, there's so many people and so many people that come from so many different walks of life and like creatively speaking, that it's almost hard. Like you could spend really just an hour talking about the cast, you know? I mean, we have
Exactly.
Dolly Lee, she's a former adult performer, you know? Like,
I thought so.
yes.
Wasn't totally sure, but
Yes,
you
no,
have
that's
now.
her. You know, it just so happened that so Niv, who is the girl with the green hair on the poster,
Yes.
we were talking about this about a year ago, and it turned out that her friend was Dolly, and you know, it just kind of worked out. She's local to St. Louis, where we shot,
One thing
and
led to another.
yeah, 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 yeah. But no, I mean,
Fantastic.
but I mean, like, there's so many people in this that have other, you know, backgrounds, careers, or just kind of, you know, like Chris Rupert, who plays Johnny Duckett. He plays the porn director. He's a real director in real life, and we had a podcast together for several years where we interviewed other indie filmmakers. You know, so
Oh, fantastic.
yeah. I mean, like, yeah, just the amount of talent that's in this. You know, you already mentioned Morgan Thompson, Jessa Flux, some local people that not everyone may be familiar with, but are just amazing and like great at improv. Jonathan May, you know, Sean, Katie. There's so many people in this that just, you know, some of them have acting backgrounds, some of them have modeling backgrounds, and they just all bring something different to the table, you know. But yeah.
Yeah. And I think that really kind of collectively and creatively makes the film that much better.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I always thought that that's almost a better idea sometimes when you're, you know, doing films quite like this, especially this very, you know, specific.
Right.
What's up, Paul? Glad to have you out there in the comments section. Appreciate you. And everybody else coming in. Share it out. Come talk to me and James Dean. No, not
Yes.
the dead guy. So what got you into doing filmmaking in the first place? Did you
I
have kind of like a love for horror or a passion for horror growing up, or?
For sure. Yeah. From very, very early on. And I mean, I don't just love horror films. I love exploitation films, grindhouse. I love, you know, I love drama. Honestly, there's not a genre of film. I love fucking musicals. Okay. I'm gonna tell you right now. I like musicals.
So do I, believe it
So
or not.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing, you know, like I think there's a magic that happens with filmmaking, or not with film, well, with filmmaking, but when you watch a film, you know,
Mhm.
and you know, I remember one of my earliest memories. I was like 3 or 4, probably 4 or 5, and being in a movie theater, and like, you know, we're taking it back almost 40 years now. I'm 43 years old, so. But the theaters then had those little strips of lights that went up the ramps.
Oh, yeah.
You always had to go up the ramp to get into the theater. And I
Yep.
remember, I don't remember what movie it was, but I remember running up the ramp and looking down at the lights and just being like, this is it. This is everything. This is amazing. You know, like it
It
was
was
so,
almost like you were on a thrill ride, you know?
yeah. 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 And the power of imagination and the magic behind filmmaking of all levels is just, it still impresses me, you know, like to unwind, to relax, I will put on a movie, you know.
Mhm.
That's my go-to
Absolutely.
thing, you know. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think I've always been a horror fan for sure. One of my earliest memories was of The Exorcist, and I was 5. I come from a Catholic background, which is
Oh,
funny enough.
fun.
Yeah. Well, that would explain if you ever get around to checking out our first film. It's a nunsploitation film, so
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Uh,
So yeah,
is that
Fa-
I'm wondering if it.
Fontaine, yeah,
Yep,
Fontaine and the vengeful nun who wouldn't die. Yeah. Um, you
absolutely.
know, I mean, what's more fun than a nun with a chainsaw? You know, but
It's right up there with Naughty Nuns, you know?
it is,
It's
yeah.
just another step of evolution for them.
Yeah,
I
I
love
mean,
it.
but I've always loved horror films, science fiction, just all of it, you know. And as a kid, I would watch everything I could get my hands on, and you know, Trauma, anything, everything, you know. It was
I
all a
think
lot of
trauma
fun to me.
has literally, like, touched all of our lives in one
Yeah,
form
yeah,
or fashion.
for sure. I think my introduction to Troma came through probably USA Up All Night, like Rhonda and Gilbert Godfrey.
Oh, Gilbert
Right.
was the best, man. I watched quite a few of those myself.
I have to say something that everyone has to check out if you haven't already watched it. But Gilbert, like 3 years ago, redid Wet Ass Pussy, and it might be the best
No
thing
shit.
he like. And I mean, it just, with his regular voice, I don't know how regular it is, but his normal, the one
It's
that
still identifiable, even when he's
for
just
sure.
like talking.
But he was doing it. He was doing it up. So it's worth checking out. Just put Gilbert Godfrey WAP, and you will not be disappointed.
I'm gonna have to check that out for damn sure.
Yeah. Like between Up All Night, that introduced me to so many films. And then of course Joe Bob back in the day. He had a couple different shows and
Legendary.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And
It's like it's kind of like, back in the day, if you wanted to catch like really like good horror, like if it was Hammer horror films or any of like the good sci-fi monster movies, you had your Saturday morning, at like 11 or 12, watch that shit, or the night before on Friday nights with like Son of Ghoul or somebody like that.
yeah.
And then you had the USA Up All Night, and it seems like it's touching a lot of current indie horror directors like yourself. So I can definitely see like this resurgence coming back, and there is definitely fans for it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think that's an interesting thing in and of itself, is that just being completely blunt, you don't have to be a good filmmaker at all. You can make garbage. You have to be good at marketing. You have to, it doesn't matter what.
There's always Tubi for that.
I'm serious. Like, you don't have to be a good filmmaker. I mean, I don't know why someone would want to make something and not try. That's a whole nother topic. But like, the marketing is where, if you want to make money, that's what you better get good at. Which is sad, but most of us don't get into it to make money, but
for sure,
to make another film,
it's about the art.
Yeah, but to make another film, people need to be paid.
Exactly.
So
especially when you have some of the names like you have, in this cast. So it's like, that's really what's going to catapult, this a little bit more to be taken more seriously, and not just,
sure.
Like I said, Tubi or whatever, Vimeo or something like that.
Yeah. No, and I have no problem. Like, I watch one of the main locations I go to now for when I stream films is Tubi. I like a lot of their films.
Sure.
I'll have a
fan. Some diamonds in the rough there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, both on the indie level and also, just older 80s, 90s horror exploitation films, I mean, if I want to watch women in prison films, which sometimes I do, don't shame me. The first place I'll go is Tubi, and the second will be Amazon. And usually between those two places, I mean, usually those two will. And also another, little tidbit that a lot of people don't know is that, indie filmmakers with streaming, they don't get paid hardly anything. And it's very little unless the movie's being rented. And right now, Tubi is one of the highest paying ones. And even that's
no kidding. I did not know that.
Tubi that's why you see a lot of indie filmmakers trying to get on there. Amazon is the one if you want just to be taken serious, and Tubi's the one if you want to make any money. Now that we're talking ad-based video on demand. We're not talking about rentals. Rentals are a different thing. Our film is coming out for rent December 8th at newvillagevideo.com. And and it's a little different. But I ended up meeting them through other filmmakers, and they had a great response, a great interaction with them. And then I did another podcast, and I didn't even know one of the owners. She was listening to the podcast, and she's a huge fan of genre films also. So like, there's nothing better than working with someone that gets and loves what you're doing. Then that they're not just in it to make a little bit of money. They're in it to promote the art. to promote the films, and I love that,
which is so hard to get folks like that on board too. So
Right. It is.
definitely an
Yeah.
unholy blessing there.
Yeah, for sure. I 1000% absolutely love your whole everything about you, by the way. I just want to put that out there right now. Unholy blessings, the artwork in the background, the face paint. I'm here for all of that. I want you to know that right now. I may have a picture of
Oh,
my dog
what
on
a
my
good
shirt.
Catholic boy you are.
I may have a picture of my dog on my shirt, but I'm still 1000% on board with what you're doing right now.
Oh man, I've been doing this character because originally, before I ever tried to get into the world of indie film,
Mhm.
I've been in metal bands for
Okay.
probably the last 30 years.
Yeah.
So I through that time I got the nickname from some of the bands that I were in, so it just kind of stuck. Everybody
Yeah.
knew me as that, and I've big fan of like King Diamond, Merciful Fate,
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of the black metal guys. So
I,
I was like, I don't want to do the typical corpse paint thing, and it
yeah.
just kind of evolved into what it is now. And I've been doing it for the past 2 years because I've always been a huge supporter of everything that is underground art, whether
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
music, it's podcasting, authors, whatever. And of course, a little bit. I mean, everybody knows I'm a Satanist. I don't have to say that.
Yeah.
So it's out there. They know it. And, it's just become a great place to highlight all this amazing talent because I hate the mainstream. The true talent is in the underground, and you are a big part of that, sir.
Oh,
Which,
I
yeah,
appreciate that, man. I definitely find myself gravitating more towards indie film, underground film. Yeah,
there's
I
no
just
rules. It's like you could be totally free to create without all the,
yeah. I
trials and tribulations you got to go through if you go through a studio.
the very first interview I did when I started promoting Triple Xmas, which was I guess just a week ago now. It wasn't that long ago.
Oh my goodness.
He asked me. I mean, I've done like 10 since then, but he asked me
Right.
if I had $100,000, how would I spend it if I was going to spend it on Triple Xmas? And I said, I'd take 15 grand and have 3 more days with every single actor. And the other 85,000, I would go and make a whole nother movie because I don't need 100 grand to make a movie. I don't need another 100 grand to make a movie called Triple X.
It almost sells itself. I mean, I was just telling my bandmates earlier tonight because we had a rehearsal,
Yeah.
prior, and it's like Triple Xmas. Shit, ain't never heard of it, but damn it, I'm in.
we had a table at Days of the Dead, and one of my favorite fucking comments from anyone so far. This guy walked by, he saw our art, he saw our t-shirts, and he didn't even stop at the table. He just looked up to his girlfriend and he said, "Sex and Santa, finally," and just kept fucking walking. I'm like, I like that dude. I don't even care if he stops by the table.
For sure, man. It's like, everyone's used to the Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Sure.
I mean, there's just been so many holiday versions, in horror. So this offers something different. So why don't you give my viewers and obviously future fans, because I'm sure after tonight they're going to want to watch this thing.
Yeah, hopefully.
So give us a little insight to the story in this film.
Right. So, I mean, the easiest synopsis would be to say that, a mentally unwell Santa Claus decides to start attacking
Every
and
mall
killing.
Santa ever.
Yes. But this is the real Santa Claus, not the mall Santa Claus. He decides, yeah, this is old Saint
Even
Nick.
better.
So he decides to start attacking and killing, porn stars on a Christmas themed porn set. And you have, honestly, the one thing that I don't bring up quite often enough, outside of the gore and, the porn set, is there's actually quite a bit of commentary just on indie film also. Because, in the film, it's mentioned, 20-something minute mark, he gets them all together, and they're asking the director, why are we here? Why are we all here at once? Why is this such a big shoot? And he basically presents this master plan to everyone that he's making one of the first holiday themed narrative porns. And he wants to create a cinematic universe out of it. And, the adult sex
Because
workers.
Marvel didn't invent it first.
Right. Well, they didn't do it with porn. That's so like then a lot of the porn stars they push back because they're like, why don't we just do our scenes and move on? Which makes sense. And I just think that's a fun idea. I don't know. That's the nutshell of what's going on. A lot of nudity and a lot of practical effects, a lot of gore. Some of the kills are pretty gnarly.
Nice.
There's a couple that there's a couple that in my head I thought were going to be amazing and they did end up amazing, but there's a couple that I have to say just turned out so much better than I anticipated and were so
Nice.
gnarly. Yeah. So and then
because the gore has got to, you have to have like a 50-50 between the the nudity and kills for sure.
Yeah, and then,
practical effects are so important, man. Oh my goodness.
I'm a huge proponent of practical effects.
Who did you use on that?
So we had Derek Worley. He's done a lot of indie film, and then we also had a makeup artist that I've had on my first two films, Hannah Richards, and they've been just together. It was a great job that was done on the film for sure. But
excellent. Yeah, and that's one thing we've always talked about on this show is God damn it. Babylon Sun has always a good comment for us. If I can get to it, here we go. He says store-bought blood or special recipe.
I think honestly that's it's a mix, because people don't realize, but there's a huge difference between what can be applied to the body and what can be put in the mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
I learned the hard way on set of Attack of the Corn Zombies.
Oh, okay. Who's that director? Is it what's his name? I've seen that.
S.J. Herman.
Yes. I want to watch that. I've seen that trailer, or I've seen the trailer and I've seen the poster. Is that out yet?
It's about to get released to Prime Video.
Right. Okay. So I cut you off. You learned that the hard way. So let me know about this scenario.
Because when you're doing a zombie film, there has to be shit tons of blood, right?
Yes.
And the bloodier the better. And it was just so interesting how they mixed syrup. What was it? Syrup and chocolate sauce.
Yep.
Looks amazing. Didn't really taste that bad until you mix it with very thinly sliced ham to look like flesh.
Yeah. That would not be a good combination.
I can't eat it.
Yeah. That would be an interesting. Yeah, that'd be an interesting combination for sure.
For sure. And it felt good until it was time to get it off. It just didn't want to come off. So
right. There's okay. I'll tell you the story. Talking about blood, and there's a moment where someone is fully naked and they get sprayed with blood from someone else being killed, and
spoiler alert.
I didn't give any details on that, but they get sprayed by a lot of blood, and it's when you're female and you have female body parts and you're getting sprayed with blood everywhere, things can become uncomfortable, especially on screen. It appears to be, a minute and a half, but to shoot it was 5 hours, and
right. People
3
don't
hours.
realize
Yeah.
Because you got to get just the right angle. It's got to look like, it just got sprayed.
You have to shoot one direction. You have to shoot the other direction. You have to change lights to shoot the opposite direction. Those lights don't move themselves.
Sure.
And this whole time, this person's sitting there covered in fake blood, Yeah. I could get way more graphic with this story, but I think I'll end it right there.
I feel it. And this is definitely a realm that I don't think, honestly, even back in the 80s, nobody even had this idea. So very original on your part.
I appreciate that. There's always going to be some sort of a lot of things have been done. Let's be honest, and
Sure.
I think borrowing from things is great. I think I I always say this. I love Tarantino's work. Disclaimer: no one loves Tarantino like he loves himself. That's a fact.
That's blatantly
Right.
obvious.
Right. But I do enjoy his work, but I actually really also enjoy the things that influenced him. So
Hmm.
if you track back, you can find a lot of the stuff that influenced him, and that stuff is just fantastic also. It's usually a little grittier, so kind of talking more about underground, I think it would definitely fit more in line with kind of, your motif and what you're interested in. But um with that said, I just think I don't know. I think that taking the approach of making something or borrowing from something is okay, but not trying to copy it directly, you know?
No,
And
because then it's like you're just trying to rehash something that's already been done at that point.
and not only has it been done, but the reason it's popular, the reason it was done so well is it was done by someone that's probably extremely talented, had a bigger budget, and I'm not going to outdo Raimi at his own game. It's not going to happen.
That's pretty tough. I
You're going to
feel
look
that.
like a moron and a hack. But if you like his style and you like the things that he's incorporated, take it and use it in your own way. It's like finding the color red and then painting with red. You can paint with red. You don't have to not paint with red just because another filmmaker did it. But painting the same exact shape the exact same way they did, you're going to look like a moron. I mean,
Right. Because people are going to be like, this
yeah.
has already been done before. Or, I mean,
And
the one thing
way,
I always hear
way
is like
better. And way
rehash
better.
plot,
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I thought this was a fun idea. It's explained in the film why things happen the way they do over the course of the film. It wasn't
Mhm.
just let's just introduce Santa into a crazy porn set. There is, there's
I mean, you could mash the two together because how many times have we seen, Santa
oh,
at the strip club or something
right.
like that?
I mean, Santa's sleigh, right?
Oh man, I wasn't even gonna bring that shit up. But that was a doozy, man. For of all people to pick, they picked Bill Goldberg. All I could sit there and do is go, come on, man, do your famous, finishing move. That's what I'm waiting for.
Do it, man.
And
What was it called?
uh,
Was it the pile driver? What was it? It was like he shoulder check, like downward. Um,
it's he would pick him up like he's gonna do a suplex, but then flip him just a little bit, and it's like a crossbody slam.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah,
I can't remember the name of it, but
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
that's all I could think about. I'm like, dude, that's Bill Goldberg. That's not fucking Santa. Now the
Yeah.
guy you got, Drew
Drew
Marvin,
Marvick. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
looks fucking legit, almost like a Thor mixed with Saint Nick.
No,
And I
I
dig that look.
okay, very early on, I had stumbled upon Drew Marvick in a few other films, and I didn't know him personally. I knew a
Hmm.
couple filmmakers who had worked with him, and I reached out to them wanting to know kind of what the experience was like, and
Oh, for
also
sure.
just to talk to him. I was like, I'm probably gonna approach him for this. I'd like to, I really thought he was great in these roles. Um, and when I think before I even wrote the first draft, he was the guy I had in mind from day one, you know? And
That's
so
definitely an unholy blessing there.
so fun fact, now I'm on my third, this was the third film we shot. The second
Hmm.
one released, the second one we shot will be the third one released. But at this point when I write, I usually write with actors in mind for a lot of roles.
Nice.
Um, and I envision it that way. And I think the reason I do that is when I first started off making short films, I just had friends and family come and do the acting in the short films,
Sure.
which gave me experience directing non-actors, which is different than directing actors. But that way you can write to people's strengths, you know?
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
almost every actor is going to have weaknesses and strengths, I mean, you look at Tom Hanks, he's great in a lot of things, but I can probably think of some scenarios where I can't really picture him as a killer slasher Santa Claus, you know? I don't think and he has a lot of
No, but
range.
that
That
would
dude
be
is
pretty
amazing.
fucking, pretty fucking interesting to see, though. I'd be sitting there thinking about what is it, the Polar Express, the whole
Yes.
goddamn
Yeah.
time. Or
It's the X-rated version.
oh, he's much too posh to do that kind of stuff.
I mean, he was in Bachelor Party. You just have to go back
He
to the 80s.
was,
that
which
that
is like,
movie had
whatever happened to the fun Tom? Suddenly he's like Mr. Serious, and I'm like, dude,
yeah.
you're a comedian. Go fuck yourself. Come on,
Yeah, I
stay a
mean, you know,
comedian. That was your bread and butter.
I do love when, you know, if someone asked me, hey, what would be like the best thing to ever happen as far as like film, I would die to see Peter Jackson come back and do a B film, a fucking horror
Oh, that
exploitation
would
film.
be killer.
He's you know, and I honestly don't want to I don't want to see him have $300 million. He doesn't need $300 million, you know?
He's
Like
already made it. Shit.
no one needs $300 million to make a B horror exploitation film. It would just kind of be silly. Give the man $5 million, he's gonna make the best film you ever saw. You know,
Absolutely.
make Meet the Feebles too. I'll watch it. I'm in.
Honestly, I think when filmmakers like get that kind of money, it's because they're trying to get the best of the best A-list actors,
Yeah,
and there's going to be so much CGI work done that
yeah,
it's just going to be like, come on.
yeah. I mean, yeah,
You know?
yeah. There is the flip side to that, where, you know, having just a little more money would have been nice for us because we could have afforded, you know, an extra 3 more days on set, you know, and then we could have done a few stunts that we didn't have time to do. You know, it was
Right.
mostly a safety thing. We could have tried, but it wouldn't have been safe. And I'm not, you know, I'm not one that's going to push things to put people in unsafe circumstances just to get a cool
Mm-mm.
shot. You know, you can't do that. You know, I mean, I guess you could. I'm not going to do that. You know, and
Right.
yeah, it's, you know, but you know, having a little extra money can take you a long way with indie film. But I do think there's probably a point where you get to a budget level where then you start having interference from producers, the people that really started putting the money in, and then
Right.
you start dealing with other factors that are just difficult to deal with when it comes to getting to a certain level, I think.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, if there's, you know, anything that is an absolute fact that I think a lot of people don't realize is that like doing the Indiegogo campaigns is such a huge part of
Yeah.
getting any film made.
Yeah.
And I would love to see some of these like top rated directors, you know, that have done all these big films ever have to do that. You know, I think honestly, all they have to do is sit down, have tea and crumpets and go, could you give it to me? You know,
I mean,
it's like, nah, we're in the trenches trying to drum it up just to fucking entertain people. And I
right.
think they're better films than what comes out in the theater.
Yeah. I have a hard time. I try never to be negative. I really, it's something that I've had to
It's
work.
tough.
I've worked really hard over the last 10 years to just be a more positive individual. And I do find it very odd. It's not from a place of like jealousy or envy, but there's these horror films that come out, I would say between the $2 and $10 million range budget. And they'll come
Yep.
out with stuff that is heavy VFX, and I have no problem with PG-13 either. You know, there's an audience for everything. It's not necessarily what I want
Absolutely
all the
there is.
time.
Yep.
I just watched Five Nights at Freddy's, right? And it was with my
Oh, yeah, I
girlfriend.
did too.
My girlfriend and her 9-year-old, and the target audience are 9-year-olds for that. You know,
Absolutely, it was.
but I
They could have
will
went
say,
so much
oh,
more
no, for
hardcore.
sure. For sure. But it walked the line for those, 9 to 13-year-olds, and it's a good gateway, you know?
Mhm.
Like in my head, I saw where, you know, it almost bites someone's head off, or it does bite someone's head off, but it didn't show it.
Well,
Okay, I see the version in my head of that where it did show it. You know what I'm
oh
saying?
yeah, me too. I'm like, chomp.
Yeah. And I mean, like,
That would have
but
been fantastic.
there's a lot of those films in that range that I just cannot get on board with that I've seen, and I just don't talk about them usually because I don't have anything positive to say. And a lot of times they're loved in the horror community even, and that's fine too. Yeah, I don't ever want to take away people's joy from anything they're enjoying. You know, if they like it,
No,
cool.
for sure. But I don't know. I don't know how you feel, but if you're targeting what I consider to be like a limited section of the audience, you're
Yeah,
missing the boat.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I,
because usually around 9 years old, 8 years old, nowadays is when kids are really getting into, let's say, your Freddy, your
yeah,
Jason,
yeah.
Michael Myers. So it's like, why not give them a little bit of taste of that fear? Because what is a good horror movie supposed to do for you? It's supposed to scare you a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And
So
I mean,
I feel
I
like
think
they're missing out on grabbing
yeah,
the adult audience with that.
I think you're onto something for sure. I think but it's also a slightly different time. Like kids now have
That's
access
true.
to everything. And so they could go and look up porn when their mom goes to sleep at the age of 7. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy. Or maybe their friends show it to them, and that's
Not in my
nuts.
house.
but then, but
It
then,
will
but then
not
they,
go down.
but then they're not allowed to watch, an R-rated horror film. It just sometimes doesn't
Right.
quite. Yeah, and kids are also really interesting because, like, I know some 5-year-olds. Like, I watched The Exorcist at 5. There's a lot of 10 year
Oh
olds that
yeah, the new one. Mhm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like there's a lot of kids that just, couldn't watch that, even at 15 necessarily. But yeah, I
Might have
mean,
trifled with their beliefs a little bit.
it could have.
Still cannot capture what it was like back in the 70s when that first one dropped.
Oh wow,
The
yeah.
reactions were insane.
Yeah. That would have been fun. It's interesting. I love going into a film that I'd never seen before, fresh on a
Mhm.
big screen, And I mean, obviously I can't go back to the 70s. I was born in 1980, but I can't go back to the 70s and watch something. But seeing it for the first time, like I just watched Clockwork Orange for the first time about 5 years ago, right?
Woo! What a mind
On
screw that movie is. Holy
on the
crap.
big screen. My first viewing was on the big screen. And like I'll
Wow.
I'll never forget that. Like,
Sure.
and I'm a huge Kubrick fan. Like, it was one of the few of his I had not seen, and I was kind of holding on to it because I wanted to save that last one that I hadn't seen yet.
Oh,
And
for sure.
I saw it on the big screen, and I was like, oh man, I'm so glad I waited for the big screen for this. But
Oh, definitely. I
yeah,
mean, it's an
but
eye opener.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a lot of
Like a
I
good
wouldn't,
David Lynch film too,
yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say it's a lot of fun, but it's a good film for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's definitely not for the faint of heart.
No, no, yeah. But some of my favorite films are like that, like you take a film like Martyrs. I don't know if you ever saw that. I know it
I
doesn't
don't
work.
know. I might
It
have.
it doesn't work for everyone, but I'll tell you what, there's a sequence in this film where I won't give it away. It's brutal. It's
Sure.
a very brutal film. Don't watch the remake. We're talking about the original. I want to say it came out like maybe late 90s, maybe. But it's a I think it's French. But it's anyway in Martyrs, and it's there's a sequence in it where someone's being tortured, and she
Oh,
is she is knocked she's falling down to the ground. She's been beaten and starved and like just all these horrible things. And as she's falling to the ground, this man who is overwhelmingly larger than her punches her. She's already falling down. Like she's already
mm.
going down, and he punches her on the way down. And like I've
Insult to
seen
injury.
I've seen some brutality in films, and I've seen some horrific things, and it's definitely not the bloodiest or goriest thing I've ever saw. But like to watch a man that is overwhelmingly larger than this woman, who's pretty much almost naked at that point, just because she's been tortured. There was nothing sexual in nature about this,
Right.
just brutality and torture. And as she's already going down, she can't even stand up. She's been tortured so much, she gets hit again, and it's like fuck. Like
That's
that
a little
is
hard. Yeah, it's a little hard to swallow.
it's tough. It's a great watch. I think you would like it on a lot of levels. So if you do ever end up watching it, message me. Let me know what you think of it because I think,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I think it's one that you.
I'll have to give it a whirl because I mean, shit. There were so many underground films, or just basically more cult like films, like that never really was like a box office hit or anything like
Oh
that.
yeah,
But
no,
it's
definitely
one of
not.
those that you're like, yeah, you want something psychologically hard to watch. I mean,
Yeah,
shit, that's how I felt about the first Hostel. That shit was difficult.
It,
Faces of Death.
yeah, yeah.
You
And then
know,
now we're going back to like old school like video cassette rentals. That's where I
well,
first
there were some
encountered.
tough ones in there. Let me tell you.
There was so
Absolutely.
Martyrs came out 2008. It's by a director called Pascal Logier. I can't say names. And I think he also
Kind of
did
sounds familiar, actually.
he did
Yeah.
Incident in a Ghostland, which is also highly recommended. I love
Hmm.
Incident in a Ghostland. It's also very brutal, and I thought he did something else, but yeah, highly recommend that director and at least those two films that I've seen of his. But they're not easy films to watch. I'll tell you that.
Mm-mm. No, if it can get my goat, it's definitely something special. Because normally when I watch stuff with like senseless
Yeah,
violence or brutality, I'm just like shit, that's pretty good. Or I'll be like, I think I know how they did that, but there's just some of those films where it's like, man, that shit really felt more real than anything else,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And it just kind of takes you out of your comfort zone. That's kind of fun too. Shit.
Yeah, I see, and that's what I love about films. Also, is I love all of this. I love all kinds of films. As we already kind of mentioned. But you know, I do have a soft spot like for Splat Stick, Evil Dead 2, Dead Alive.
Oh,
Brain Dead.
absolutely.
I just I
Even
one of
Zombieland was fun.
Zombieland was a lot of fun. I don't know if I watched the sequel. I think maybe, but Zombieland was a
First one was
rare.
definitely better to me, but the
Sure.
second one still had its moments.
Right. Right. Yeah. I Zombieland was a lot of fun. I'm a big Woody Harrelson fan,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah. And then Bill Murray, that whole thing was just
It was fucking priceless. Who would have
yeah.
thought?
And the funny thing is kind of to wrap it back around. You were talking about for the most part not really getting into a lot of studio horror. But if you
Hmm.
think about that, that was studio horror. But the thing it did that most studios don't do is it was taking tons of chances. It was doing things
It did.
differently. It wasn't working in that little box. It was working outside of it. It was trying something fun and new. And from early on, talking about like giving people's names and how they died and all that, and giving these rules and whatnot. Like you don't see that normally. So it was
It's like
different.
every blue moon, once in a blue
Yeah,
moon, somebody gets it right,
yeah,
because they took a chance on somebody who had originality instead of trying to either do a remake or rehash.
yeah, yeah.
And that's why this film that you've made is way like off the cuff as far as the Christmas horror type
Right,
stuff. We've
right.
seen anthologies. We've seen it
True.
just be, your traditional mall Santa slasher or Bill Goldberg, like we talked
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah.
So why does Santa decide to destroy this porn set?
So that would be a pretty massive spoiler. I'm gonna be honest with you. That would be a pretty
Ah,
massive
only
spoiler.
give us what you can.
I mean, I may have. I I. I will say that not giving more of the synopsis or plot away, I will
Mhm.
say that I try to incorporate a little bit of either commentary or like the way I'm feeling about something in my films. Okay, there's a huge asterisk I have to put here though. I love subtext. I love having commentary and how you feel about things.
Sure.
Even when I agree with someone, when it's like right in your face and overwhelmingly like just they keep saying the same thing over, and I can't stand that. I really can't. So I think subtext should stay subtext. It should be there, and
Right.
it should be something that someone can enjoy or take from it, but not everyone's going to pick up on, and it's not going to be like the front and center flashing message. It's
Right.
I enjoy walking that line, and I think a lot of people have a lot they want to say, but they make the plot and the story becomes about the subtext, and it is no longer a subtext.
Nice.
And I think that's an issue when people do that, because then you're turning away half your viewers. And even when I agree with someone that's saying something like that, I don't tune in just to hear someone preaching. If I wanted to do that, I'd
Oh,
still be a
yeah.
Catholic. I'd still go to church. you know, I mean, I don't need to be preached to, no matter, even if I agree with it.
Nope. especially not in a good horror film like this. You it just doesn't have a place.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, like, but you take the greats. You take someone like Romero, who had tons of things to say. But you can watch
All
Dawn of
the
the Dead,
time.
and yeah, you can watch Dawn of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead. You can watch all these things, and you
Mhm.
can still experience it and enjoy it without having to dig into that. I mean, it's cool to dig into that stuff also. And I think that if you're gonna make any level of art, put some creativity behind it, make it personal, but it doesn't have to be the full focus. Like if you really just want to see tits and ass and watch a bloody good time and lots of really wild, crazy one-liners from a fucking crazy Santa, this is your film. This is your film right here. I mean, the
I
poster screams
mean,
that. I mean,
absolutely. And there is definitely a need for this type of film. I mean, we learned that with what was it, Bubba the redneck werewolf, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wolf Cop had a bunch of good one-liners in there. So it's like
yeah.
just because it's not a big budgeted film doesn't mean you're not going to get taken on a fucking hell of a ride. Which we're actually going to take a look at the trailer right now so we can give you just a little bit of glimpse into this wonderful piece of blasphemy. We're almost there. There is a couple, so we're gonna go right here. Awesome. Check it out.
Oh, welcome home, Nikki. Sit down and I'll bring you some cookies.
You do know you're the only one that still calls me that, right?
So we're not just out here to film a couple of scenes.
Yeah, Johnny, I think we got that all figured out.
So,
So we're making a feature film.
this film is fucked. You act like you're a stranger to my spices.
Dad. No, sweetie. Oh my God. Is this your first shoot?
This is my fucking set.
Wait, working with guns?
You were on the nice list for so long!
Why are you doing this?
He took them from me!
We should have never got him the Criterion channel. Ever since then, he's been walking around like Gaspar fucking Noe or something.
All right. So I feel like it didn't give too much away, but it gave us just enough to know that you're in for something really unique here. And I gotta tell you, man, Drew really sells that shit.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was well. So something I've done a lot of interviews, but I haven't talked. I talked some about the acting, but Drew had asked me early on how I wanted him to play this, and I said, like honestly, think about Patrick Bateman and how nuts he was, and I said I want you to bring that to Santa Claus, and if you can bring Patrick Bateman levels of insanity and kind of just push that. And Drew is so charismatic, and he's such a sweet, funny, very, very funny guy that he sells the one-liners when he needs to, and he definitely sells the insanity, And just
when he was angry, I felt that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he does a great job. So in the moments where he's killing people and he's fucking up shit, he's very believable because he looks angry, And yeah, and also though, the film doesn't take itself too serious, man. I don't take myself too serious, and if you can't tell by the name, the film doesn't take itself too serious either. I mean,
sure.
You could go down the list of the names of the characters. You have Kitty, you have Krispy Kreme, you have Black Mamba, Kitty Purrs, Lena Luscious. I mean, we're not taking ourselves to Angel Love, Jack Rabbit. I mean,
Well, and I've always said it that, a good mix of horror and comedy
yeah,
with just the right amount of seriousness to it, it literally hits every endorphin rush that anybody could get from films like this. I also think that's why Killer Clowns from Outer Space did so
oh,
well.
I
So,
love that
like,
film. Yeah,
oh man,
yeah.
but it was so goddamn funny. And I
Oh,
think that's what people really dig. Even characters like Captain Spaulding, House for the Thousand Corpses,
yeah,
um, shit, any of them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
From
No. Yeah, I agree with you definitely.
those are
I
always the
love.
most memorable.
Yeah, yeah. I love the films that kind of straddle the line and they can kind of go back and forth.
Yeah,
I think something that a lot of indie filmmakers fail at doing or they kind of mess up on is they try to make things funny that aren't naturally funny necessarily.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's
and if
got to be like, it has to feel naturally funny. It just can't. If you force it, it's like, okay, you're just,
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
crank off a line you thought,
And
was
I will say, like,
wrong.
it's a combination of writing and like the actors being able to really pull it off. And
Oh, yeah.
there have been times where something is being said on, and I'm like, this isn't working. We need to change this.
Oh, sure.
And it happens. One thing that was really fun to do on this is that we had limited time, obviously, but Newt Wallen and Jessa Flux both are just incredibly talented at improv. And there's a couple lines that like Jessa said that like I every time I would watch the film, I would just laugh my ass off. And again, I've watched this film about 100 times, so that takes something to. And it wasn't scripted; it was something that they just brought to the film, and the day of the moment of they brought it up and they said it, and it's so hard when you're. I mean, you've acted, so it's so hard when someone comes up with something that's funny that you're not expecting, and you're behind the camera, and you kind of can't laugh out loud because you're gonna fuck up the take.
Well, yeah, for sure. But it's like, not every director is going to be like that.
Yeah,
That's like, hey, this will actually work.
yeah,
So it's kind of cool that, you're able to recognize that, and, the actors that you're working with, can feel free to, if it just isn't coming off the way you want it, that they're able to throw something in there that just totally throws you for a loop.
right. I think that one of the worst things a director can do with an actor is do line reads and ask them to do it a super specific way. Now, I will say there are moments in things in scripts that I've written where I do
Mhm.
want it a very specific way, but probably 95% of the time, the reason they're there is to put their spin on it, right? It's
Yep.
not this is
Sure.
not like a dictatorship where it's going to be it's going to be just this one way. It's a collaboration, and they're there to bring their art to the table. It's not.
Absolutely.
And so like if you're just dictating how things are going to go, you might as well just become a writer and write exactly what you want. There's no I love collaboration, man, and also it just makes me look better at the end of the day.
Right. I mean, shit, I've only been talking to you for about an hour, and I'm like, when's the next film? Do you need a good slasher?
Well, so the second film we shot will be the third one released, and it's drastically different than the first two films that we made. It's more like Blue Ruin. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Jeremy Sayane. He made
Sounds
Green Room.
familiar.
He made Green
Yeah,
Room,
yeah.
Murder Party. So Blue Ruin is a revenge story, and I love revenge films.
Oh,
And
those can be really fun.
and so Absolution is the next film that we have coming out, and it is a 70-plus-year-old alcoholic Vietnam vet, very serious in nature. It's not a fun movie per se. It borders on drama at a few times, but it has
Wow.
practical effects. It has a revenge storyline. He encounters someone that was just assaulted, and it's like him versus a gang. And you're looking at Vietnam era tactics, setting up traps. You're not playing by rules when you're fighting someone like that.
Oh,
And
no, not at
it's
all.
fun. It's really fun getting into that. So, we shot that. That'll be out next fall. And we're working on. I have a couple other scripts, and they're all different. Like I have a giallo I'm working on, which I think could be a lot of fun to do. An 80s B film of sorts that I'm working on, Prom Night Massacre. And then,
nice.
yeah. I mean, and honestly, both of these I'm equally excited to one day do. It just depends on which one comes up next. And then, the co-writer I've worked with on 2 of my projects, he's writing something on his own that's more of like a Midsummer meets Demons.
Ooh.
So,
well, that's right up my alley.
yes. Well, see, but that's the thing is I don't want to make just like one kind of film. I want to make whatever I feel like making in the moment and doing the absolute best job with it. Absolution is definitely like Blue Ruin with just a touch of Death Wish 3, I mean, like there's a little bit of Grindhouse in there. There's a little bit of Grindhouse in there. I can't not make a film and not have, and so I don't know, man. It's just, I see a more clear path forward with like trying to raise funds and trying to make the next one and going forward. And I have a lot of people and collaborators I can, have come around me to make a really great film or a great project. But it's awesome. It's one step at a time. And, I don't want to just make one kind of film, and
sure. I think it's good to show range.
Yeah.
And you're like able to get out a little bit of every genre of film that you like.
Yeah. And I think I'll always definitely stick closer to the genre film, horror, exploitation, grindhouse, B movies. I'll probably always play mostly in that realm, but I started writing a dramedy. I started writing and right off the bat, Drew Marvick was the lead in it. Like in my head, after working with him, he was the title character. And it was just him refusing to grow up. And it was kind of a comedy with drama that, you finally realize at the end why he refused to grow up, and like, who knows, maybe that'll never get made. I don't know, but I'm not going to tell myself I'm not going to write these things if these are the stories that appear in my head,
Oh, most definitely, man.
Yeah. Again, I'll always kind of favor, the B films, horror, exploitation, but yeah, fuck, if a musical pops in my head, who knows? I mean,
Satan Takes a Holiday.
Yeah. The musical.
I can totally see that shit.
That would be
and
fun.
Without my makeup, I resemble a pretty good Anton, as I'm told all the time. It's like either that or Captain Spaulding, one of the two.
Oh, I could definitely see that. You mentioned something earlier that I wanted to kind of come back to, and it's not even related to the film or film in general, but you mentioned King Diamond. And I grew up listening to nu metal, Korn, Limp Bizkit. That was really the metal I was used to. And I wrote off a lot of no, that's okay. I still love them. But I wrote off like bands. I wrote off bands like Slayer. I just was like, I don't know why. And then I met a guy and we became good friends. And he's like, "You don't like Slayer?" And we went to a show. And the first time I saw King Diamond live, I saw Slayer live. And I have to I know. I have to tell you, I don't remember the lead guitarist's name for Slayer, but holy fucking Christ.
Kerry King.
Yes. That's it. Watching him play fast and with such precision and just fucking giving it 100 and like I thought it was 100%, it was like 5,000%. And like he made me really step back and say, what an asshole was I? How big of an asshole was I that I was writing off an entire like genre of music because I just kind of thought that it was just fast and loud. And it is, but it's also really fucking good, And
it definitely gets the proverbial juices flowing.
Oh God. And King Diamond, what I absolutely love about him, I love whenever you can take something. One of my favorite bands going away from metal is Weezer. And maybe you don't like them, but I'll tell you why I like them. They are not afraid to be themselves and still feel very comfortable being themselves. And you take someone like Diamond, who's playing metal and operatic infused, and like, I don't know anyone else doing that. Like, how fucking cool is that? Like, there's a couple people that kind of flirt with it, but
Mhm.
he does it, and he fucking kills it, like that's exciting to me, something different.
He was the Stephen King of metal
I
because
could see
every
that.
album told a horror story.
Right.
And I'm like, if somebody would just take a chance and do a film on Abigail or them,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
swear it would probably just be a smash fucking hit because it was just a great story. He does all the different voices,
Yeah.
even his stage show. He's got actors and
Oh yeah, no,
actresses that do shit.
it's not just a musical performance. It's definitely a show. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I've seen him live twice, and the second time I've seen him live twice. There was a third time we were supposed to see him, and they canceled. But we had saw him live. We went to see a second show. They canceled for some reason. Then we went to a third show, and we got notification. The rumor was they were going to cancel. I was like, "Fuck!" Third show they're going to cancel. It turned out he came out and he performed without makeup because he had an allergic reaction to the makeup. He never performs without,
that.
he never performs without makeup. So it was kind of really fun for me to experience it that way also. I mean, like I'd seen it both ways,
Oh yeah, I mean that was extremely difficult for him to do from the interviews that I read on that too. It's like that is like your staple thing, and here you are coming out as just regular Joe Schmo King Diamond, but still destroys the crowd.
For sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Yeah. That was a lot of fun, and it was a lesson to me not to write off any kind of like genre of music or films. Give everything a chance, even if on the surface I may not think I'll like it, try it. Who knows,
I mean, I've seen foreign films, art films that, are supposed to, have a message or something like that. It's like, if it touches me, if it moves me in some kind of way, then, I mean, I'm not going to dismiss it.
Yeah. The one exception to that were the Catholic priests, but yeah, go ahead.
Right. So yeah, man. So when well, first of all, where can everyone find you?
I think the easiest way, all of my socials are linked at monsterkidfilms.com. There is an S at the end, monsterkidfilms.com. You can find the films we've made. You can find where they're showing theatrically. And then you can pre-order the Blu-ray. It should be shipping here in a couple weeks, just in time for Christmas. And then it's actually going to be streaming December 8th. And that is at newvillagevideo.com. And it'll also be linked at monsterkidfilms.com, yeah. So, there's a little tab. You can go to Triple Xmas. It's one of the films that are on there. But yeah, it's a journey, man. It's been a lot of fun, but it's a journey.
And that's, I mean, and that's when the work is rewarding. If it feels like work, then your heart's not in it. But I mean, just from talking to you, we can definitely tell that you are 100% invested in all of the pictures that you make, and you don't cut no corners. You're not just trying to get stuff turned out. You're offering quality films.
I appreciate that, man. It's really hard at this budget level to try to turn in the absolute best you can do, and because it ends up being that you do a lot of it yourself at one end or the other, or sometimes both, and
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a labor of love.
Yeah, for sure. Oh no, yeah, for sure.
But
yeah,
it almost kind of feels like you're giving birth sometimes.
Oh yeah, out your asshole for sure. Yeah, it's painful.
Hear that, Arnold Schwarzenegger? I'll never forget that piece of shit film.
That's a good reference, though. That's a good tie.
Exactly. Well, I definitely wish you the best success with this film.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
As you can see at the bottom, everybody out there in Black Flame Land, go to monsterkidfilms.com to keep up with everything that James has got coming out and future projects as well.
Yeah.
And those of you like me who are on IMDb all the time, definitely you can check out his work there as well. So before we go ahead and wrap it up, man, what do you want to leave the new fans that you've made tonight, as well as people that have tuned in that love your work?
I mean, just I think if there's anything, just support artists. Support indie filmmakers. It doesn't even have to be me. If you like someone, if they're doing a screening, go check it out. And engaging on social media, likes and comments helps to promote that to another person that may not be familiar with them. Yeah, I think that's huge. Small businesses and artists, they need all the support they can get, and that's across the board. Podcasts, I mean, everything. Anything like that. Share.
And yeah, I mean, that's why I always end every post I do on my socials with hashtag support the underground. That's not just my podcast people, it's everyone in the underground. So
I love that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I never thought to use that, but I love that. That's awesome. Yeah.
Because like I said, that's why I started this podcast 2 years ago. And I've seen so many amazing artists on every medium, every type of art that there is come through here and going on to big and, good success. So the more directors we got like you out there, man, eventually, we're going to see a lot more of these awesome underground films come to the fucking theater like the good old days, because everything that comes out anymore is just targeted. It's somewhat a bit of trash, and it's just like, why do we keep beating a dead horse?
And the wrong kind of trash too. The wrong kind of trash.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if it was, trash that we all could get filthy with, then it's great.
Yeah.
But, how much politics do we really need at the end of the day? So I appreciate you taking the time, man, out of your busy schedule to join me in the underground tonight. And for everybody that showed up tonight in the comment section and watching, man, we appreciate that shit. For those of you that might be a slumber because, Manic Monday is almost upon us, or Malevolent Monday, whichever one, fits the bill a little better. I'm glad you chose the underground to kind of kickstart your week. As always, don't forget tomorrow night is Tracks of the Damned with myself and my co-pilot, Human the Hoof Beast. As always, we got a good show for you. And, as December has been kicked off officially, and you got visions of Santa killing some porn actresses, just dancing in your heads. The most important thing to always remember: stay heavy. Maybe. God damn it.